Do you guys see how thin this is? This is not gonna last me 2 more bowls. I just know it. What am I gonna do? Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about trimming. My favorite. Trimming and carving. I guess it's really more about carving, but trimming I think also is a part of it. I wanted to talk about this because someone had asked me how I make my pieces, someone in the studio. So to start, I wanted to go over the process of pottery making or ceramics. It's pretty much the same for all clay bodies. You have 3 main phases. The first is greenware. That's where you get your raw clay. It's very wet, very malleable. You can shape it, form it, trim it, carve it into whatever shape you want. During that phase, some people do underglaze, which is like painting or carving or different decorations. Then it goes through a kiln firing, and then that becomes the second phase, which is bisqueware. Some people also do their underglaze or like other sorts of decoration after bisqueware or during on bisqued ware. So that's fine as well. It just depends on the practice. In order to get to the third phase, you apply glaze. Glaze is essentially a bunch of chemicals and minerals put together that makes glass. Pretty cool. That gets applied on bisqueware in the second phase and then gets turned into like the final piece in the second glaze firing, and that becomes your third phase. So that's what we would call the finished piece, essentially. So for me, because trimming and carving is during the first phase, greenware phase, it becomes a super important part of my practice. I spend the majority of my time in the first phase of ceramics. It's really important to the uniqueness of my pieces, I think. My art really has developed a lot in this category over the last year, and so I'm really happy with where it's gone, I think. So what I do is I do a lot of sketching, and I lay out some images of like completed or progress projects in order for me to see the progression and where things go. So this is like my Miro board, essentially, a whiteboard of these images. So what's interesting is the base for a lot of my pieces is very simple. So things like the plant pots or the bowls, those are a set size that I'm really comfortable making, and I can make them pretty quickly and throw them very thick. And then just to go into more detail, too much detail. To go into more detail, basically I map out the imagery. That becomes my foreground, and the background becomes this fluted texture that I use that loop tool to carve away. The loop tool and a straight edge. And then that becomes this really elegant, really kind of austere plant pot. This one was for my mom. And then some other examples that I do, sometimes I paint some underglaze as a wash and then carve away on top of that. So part of the color remains, and you can sort of see those swirls and stuff show up. Here you can also see I do a variety of different widths of carving. So like the bottom of this swoop is very thick, and then the top is a little thinner. The way I choose the width of the carving is a little bit of it is like reducing physical weight of the piece, and then a little bit of it is just like reducing visual weight. So whatever I think looks good for that piece. And then the last one, you can see that like I said, I throw some very plain pieces. This is the butter bell that I showed last week. So the left here is the butter bell, and then here I'm carving through the lid and the main body, and then the next image is I'm attaching the butter stick on top, and then the last image I'm painting. So it all just kind of comes together. So this is like a prime example of like a multitude of techniques, right? There's painting, there's carving, and then there's like the hand building part as well for the cows. Speaking of trimming and carving this week, you can see a prime example of that with my strawberry bowls. So this is a continuation of last time's project. Here I'm just showing that I've carved the strawberries and the leaves and the vines and whatnot. And then the next step, after cleaning them up a little bit, is to create an outline around the motif. I really only create an outline around the motifs for very complicated imagery, like for the clouds and mountains I didn't really need to, but this one, because the fluting would go right up next to the imagery, I decided to create a little border. So you can see that I'm basically outlining it, and that creates a natural place for the fluting to start and stop. I think that makes it a little easier on me. And I'm also watching F1. Okay, so here I'm starting to do the fluting. I think this time lapse goes through a pretty big chunk of it. Basically, I take a right angle straight edge, it's a little tougher with a bowl, but I line it up against the piece and carve away where I think it needs to go, and then I move it over a little bit, and then I carve more, and then I move it over a little bit more, and then I carve more. So it's just a very long, time-intensive process. And throughout the time I'm doing this, I have to maintain the wetness of the piece. I tend to carve a little drier because it's a little easier to deal with the texture. But that means I have to continue spraying it down. And here you can see all of the final details. The next step after this would be painting, which you'll see probably next time. Okay, so now it's time for high-low, what do you know? If you didn't watch my video previously, it's a reflection technique. Like you discuss a high, like a success or a positive experience, a low, like a difficulty or challenge, and then a what do you know, which is something like like a fun fact that I learned, or like something about me, or like that kind of thing. So, okay, so a high is I got a really fun pair of pants. These cow pants, I don't know if you can see them. Ah, yes, here. They're from a brand called Lisa Says Ga. I got them on Poshmark. They're just really fun and cute. So then my low is I broke my carving tool. Please cut to that now. Do you guys see how thin this is? This is not gonna last me 2 more bowls. I just know it. The other side is like too thick of a wire, and so I really never use this one, but this side, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Update, okay, so it did break. I'm now at the Blick in Brooklyn trying to find the tool. I usually do find it here, but the only one I could find is like this piece that was in this actual kit, of which obviously I'm not gonna buy because I don't really need that whole kit. Not really sure what to do now, so I ended up going to a different Blick in Soho, and I ended up getting not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 of these. They are pretty cheap. They're like maybe a little over $4 each, but I go through them relatively quickly, so I want to make sure I have them, and they're like pretty essential to what I do. So 4. Okay, and then a what do you know? You know, this is kind of embarrassing. So I learned to ride a bike by myself, right? My parents never taught me. I think they may have taken the training wheels off, but I taught myself. I just figured it out. And I was thinking about this earlier, is that I'm still kind of scared to ride a bike in New York City especially, but just in general on my own. I don't have the highest confidence in myself about it. And I was thinking about this recently because I saw a LinkedIn notification from someone from my previous internship, and that internship I remember very vividly. A coworker forcing me to take like a city bike to a meeting down the street rather than walking, and it scarred me for life. I didn't crash, I was fine, but it was terrifying. So okay, talk to you guys soon. Bye.